The Catalyst of Chaos. In the year 2257, the Galactic Council convened under a veil of anxiety and uncertainty. Representatives from various species filled the grand chamber, their voices rising in heated debates. Tensions had been brewing for years, but now they reached a boiling point with news that humanity had developed a weapon capable of unimaginable destruction, codenamed Prometheus. The council members were no strangers to conflict. They had witnessed countless wars across the galaxy. Yet this new weapon posed a unique threat, one that could shift the balance of power irrevocably. As whispers of Prometheus spread like wildfire, fear gripped many representatives, especially those from the Zorian Empire, known for their ruthless expansionism. At the heart of this turmoil stood Captain James Hawkins, an experienced officer in the United Earth Federation, UEF. He was tasked with transporting Prometheus to a secret research facility where it could be further studied and safeguarded. As he prepared his ship, the UEF Dauntless, he felt an unsettling weight on his shoulders. The fate of humanity seemed to rest heavily upon him. As Hawkins boarded his ship, he exchanged determined glances with his crew, each member aware that they were embarking on a mission fraught with danger. They had heard rumors about Prometheus, but none could fully grasp its potential. Dr. Stern, the chief scientist responsible for its development, had warned them that it could manipulate dark matter to create weapons of unparalleled destructive capability. "Captain," Dr. Stern said as he joined Hawkins on the bridge, his voice laced with urgency, "we must ensure that Prometheus does not fall into enemy hands. If the Zorians get hold of it—" "I know," Hawkins interrupted, his jaw tightening. "We'll do everything we can to protect it." The Dauntless launched into space, leaving Earth behind as they entered hostile territory. As they navigated through asteroid fields and debris-laden sectors, Hawkins felt an uneasy calm settle over him, a prelude to chaos. Suddenly, alarms blared across the ship. "Zorian ships detected. Multiple contacts," shouted Lieutenant Commander Michael Voloff from his station. Hawkins' heart raced as he took command. "All hands to battle stations. Prepare for evasive maneuvers." The crew sprang into action, adrenaline coursing through their veins as they manned their posts. The view screen displayed an imposing fleet of Zorian warships emerging from hyperspace, sleek vessels bristling with weapons aimed directly at them. "Captain, they're locking onto us," Voloff shouted as he struggled to keep their ship steady amidst incoming fire. "Return fire. Target their lead ship," Hawkins commanded, gripping his chair tightly as explosions rocked their vessel. The Dauntless retaliated with its own weapons, but it quickly became apparent that they were outmatched. Zorian ships swarmed around them like predators closing in on prey. "Shields at 50%, cried Ensign Lila Torres from her console. "We can't take much more of this." Hawkins knew that if they didn't escape soon, Prometheus would be lost, and with it, humanity's last hope against an aggressive empire bent on domination. "Engineering, can you boost power to shields?" Hawkins barked into his communicator. "We're doing our best, Captain," Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez replied urgently from engineering. "But we're taking heavy damage." Just then, an explosion rocked the ship as a Zorian blast struck them directly. Crew members were thrown violently across the bridge. Some lay still in expanding pools of blood, while others scrambled to regain control amidst chaos. "Get us out of here," Hawkins shouted above the din. "Plot an emergency jump." With seconds ticking away like grains of sand in an hourglass, Voloff worked furiously at his console while dodging debris flying through the air. "Jump coordinates set. Engaging now." The ship lurched violently as it entered hyperspace, a momentary escape from certain doom. But even as they fled into the void between stars, Hawkins knew that this was only a temporary reprieve. Back on Earth, Admiral Victor Petro slammed his fist onto his command console as reports flooded in regarding the dauntless attack. He had fought against Zorian forces for decades and understood their cunning strategies all too well. "Lieutenant," Petro barked at his aide, "I want a full investigation into how they found us." Someone tipped them off. "Yes, sir," replied the lieutenant with urgency before rushing off to gather intelligence reports. Petro leaned back in his chair, his brow furrowed with worry. If there was indeed a traitor among them who had compromised their mission, then no one was safe. Meanwhile, aboard the Dauntless, Hawkins surveyed what remained of his crew, shaken but resolute. They had survived against overwhelming odds, but at great cost. Several good men and women had been lost during their escape. Dr. Stern awaited them in a secure hangar bay when they finally arrived at their destination, a heavily fortified research facility hidden deep within an asteroid field. As Hawkins stepped off the ship's airlock and onto solid ground once more, he felt both relief and dread wash over him. "Captain," Stern greeted him solemnly. "I'm glad you made it back." Hawkins nodded grimly but wasted no time on pleasantries. "What is Prometheus? Why do they want it so badly?" Stern led him through layers of security until they reached a large circular chamber dominated by an ominous glowing orb pulsing with eerie blue light, the embodiment of humanity's most dangerous creation. "This is Prometheus," Stern explained with both pride and trepidation in his voice. "It can manipulate dark matter." Hawkins frowned. He had heard whispers about dark matter being theoretical, but never thought it could be harnessed for weaponry or propulsion systems capable of traversing vast distances across galaxies. "And you believe Zorians know about this?" Hawkins asked sharply. "We suspect so," Stern replied gravely. "If they capture this technology, they could conquer not just Earth but entire star systems." As repairs began on the Dauntless, Hawkins gathered his senior officers for an urgent meeting to discuss their next steps amidst growing fears about security breaches within their ranks. "I don't like this." Commander Rodriguez voiced her concerns during discussions about potential leaks leading back to high-ranking officials within UEF command structures who may have been communicating secretly with Zorian agents. "I agree," Lieutenant Commander Volov added gravely. "If Zorians knew about our mission beforehand, we have serious issues." Hawkins nodded thoughtfully. Admiral Petro was already investigating these claims, but time was running out before another attack could occur, or worse yet, the loss of Prometheus itself would mean disaster for humanity's future prospects against oppressive forces like those represented by Zorians, seeking domination over all galactic territories without mercy or restraint whatsoever. As discussions continued late into night hours aboard the Dauntless, Hawkins gazed out at stars twinkling brightly beyond, once filled with dreams, now overshadowed by looming threats ahead, which would test not only courage, but also resolve amongst those willing enough stand firm against tyranny, no matter what sacrifices might be required a long way forward. Secrets and betrayals. The atmosphere in the United Earth Federation's command center was thick with tension. Admiral Victor Petro paced back and forth, his mind racing with the implications of the recent battle. The Zorian Empire had suffered a significant defeat at the hands of Captain James Hawkins and the UEF Dauntless, but that victory came at a steep price. The threat of retaliation loomed over them like a dark cloud, and whispers of betrayal echoed through the corridors of power. Petro stopped abruptly, his gaze fixed on a holographic display of the galaxy. The Zorian fleet had been decimated, yet their resolve was unyielding. They would not take this loss lightly. As he considered their next move, he knew that the stakes had never been higher. "Sir," a voice interrupted his thoughts. It was Lieutenant Commander Michael Volov, his chief engineer. "We've been analyzing the data from Prometheus, and there are serious concerns regarding its potential for collateral damage." Petro turned to face him, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "We don't have time for doubts, Volov. If we don't act decisively now, we risk losing everything we fought for." Volov hesitated before continuing. "I understand that, but we also need to ensure that Prometheus is safe to use. If it malfunctions or falls into enemy hands again." "Enough," Petro snapped. "We need to focus on finding the traitors within our ranks first. If there are high-ranking officials conspiring with the Zorians, they could undermine our entire operation. As if summoned by his thoughts, a comms officer entered the room with urgent news. "Admiral, we've intercepted encrypted messages indicating a potential leak within our command structure." Petro's heart sank. "Get me those messages immediately." The officer nodded and quickly relayed the information to Petro's console. As he scanned through the data, his expression hardened. The messages revealed discussions among several high-ranking officials expressing doubts about defying the Galactic Council and advocating for surrendering Prometheus to avoid further conflict. "This is treason," Petro muttered under his breath as he read the chilling words. "We can't win this fight. The Zorians are too powerful." He slammed his fist down on the console in anger. "These cowards want to hand over our only means of defense. We need to expose them before they can do any more damage." Meanwhile, aboard the Dauntless, Captain Hawkins gathered his senior officers in the ship's briefing room. The atmosphere was somber as they reviewed their recent battle against the Zorian fleet. "We achieved a significant victory," Hawkins began, looking around at his crew, each face marked by fatigue and loss. "But we must remain vigilant. The Zorians will retaliate, and we have reason to believe that someone within our own ranks is leaking information about Prometheus." Commander Elena Rodriguez leaned forward, her brow furrowed with concern. "If that's true, then we're sitting ducks out here. We can't trust anyone." Lieutenant Torres chimed in. "What if we set up a counterintelligence operation? We could monitor communications and keep an eye on those who have access to sensitive information." Hawkins nodded thoughtfully. "That's a good idea, but we need to be careful not to tip off whoever is behind this. If they suspect we're onto them, they might escalate their efforts." Dr. Stern interjected, his voice tinged with worry. "And while we're investigating this leak, we must also prepare Prometheus for further deployment. We still don't fully understand its capabilities or limitations in real combat scenarios." Hawkins felt a weight settle on his shoulders as he considered their options. They were caught in a precarious situation. Victory had come at a cost, and now they faced threats both from outside and within. "Let's prioritize our investigation," Hawkins decided firmly. "We'll gather intel on potential suspects while also preparing for our next mission with Prometheus." As discussions continued late into the night aboard the Dauntless, Admiral Petro was busy drafting orders back at command headquarters on Earth. "General Graves," he said as he entered the general's office unannounced, "we need to take decisive action against these traitors before they can undermine our efforts." Graves looked up from his desk, surprise etched across his features as he processed Petro's urgency. "What do you propose?" "We'll conduct an internal investigation," Petro replied sharply. "We'll interrogate anyone who had access to sensitive information regarding Prometheus or our military strategies against the Zorians." Graves nodded slowly but looked concerned. "And what if it leads us to high-ranking officials? We can't afford any more chaos right now." Petro leaned closer, lowering his voice conspiratorially. "Then we expose them for what they are, traitors who would sell out humanity for their own safety." As Petro left Graves' office with renewed determination coursing through him like fire, he knew that time was of the essence. Every moment spent idly could lead them closer to disaster. Back on the Dauntless, Hawkins convened another meeting with his senior officers after receiving word about Admiral Petro's plan for an investigation. "I want everyone on high alert," Hawkins instructed firmly as he stood before them once more, their faces illuminated by dim overhead lights casting shadows across worried expressions etched into each crew member's features. "We need to identify any potential leaks within our ranks quickly," he continued without hesitation while locking eyes with each officer present in turn, his gaze steady and resolute despite lingering doubts swirling around him like dark clouds threatening rain. Rodriguez spoke up again. "Captain, I suggest we divide our efforts. Some of us can focus on gathering intel, while others maintain operational readiness should another attack occur." Hawkins nodded appreciatively at her suggestion. It made sense given their current predicament, where vigilance was paramount amidst uncertainty looming ever closer like an approaching storm. "Agreed," he said decisively before adding, "Let's also keep an eye out for any unusual behavior among crew members, especially those who've recently been granted access privileges concerning Prometheus or classified operations surrounding it." As plans were laid out meticulously by each officer present, the weight of responsibility hung heavily upon Hawkins' shoulders as uncertainty gnawed at him from within. He couldn't shake off what felt like an impending sense of doom lurking just beyond reach, a reminder that betrayal could come from anywhere, even among those who stood beside him fighting for humanity's survival against overwhelming odds. Meanwhile, back at command headquarters, Petro was poring over intelligence reports when an urgent message came through from Lieutenant Commander Volov aboard the Dauntless. "Admiral, we've identified several individuals who had access to critical information about Prometheus," Volov reported breathlessly over comms. "Who?" Petro demanded sharply as adrenaline surged through him, instantly igniting flames of determination deep within his chest. Volov hesitated momentarily before responding. "A group consisting primarily of high-ranking officials, those who expressed doubts regarding defying Galactic Council orders during recent meetings. They've been communicating suspiciously amongst themselves about negotiating terms with Zorian representatives." Petro felt fury rise within him like molten lava threatening eruption. These traitors were not only risking lives, but also jeopardizing humanity's future. "Good work." He praised Volov briefly before issuing orders swiftly. "I want surveillance teams dispatched immediately. Monitor all communications involving these individuals. We must gather evidence before taking action." As Petro ended communication with Volov, his mind raced ahead, contemplating consequences awaiting them should they fail this mission. It would mean surrendering everything humanity held dear. Back aboard the Dauntless amidst preparations underway, the crew remained unaware of how close they were teetering upon brink edge, where loyalty would be tested beyond limits previously thought imaginable. Hours passed as investigations unfolded quietly behind closed doors, while tensions mounted steadily throughout UEF ranks. Fear gripped hearts, knowing betrayal lurked just beneath surface-ready strike when least expected. Hawkins continued leading training drills alongside maintaining operational readiness aboard ship, striving to keep morale high despite uncertainty surrounding their mission ahead. Every passing moment weighed heavily upon him, reminding him just how fragile peace truly was between factions vying power across galaxy. As days turned into weeks, the investigation deepened, revealing layers upon layers of deceit woven intricately throughout UEF command structure itself, threatening to unravel everything they'd worked tirelessly toward achieving thus far. Finally, one fateful evening, a breakthrough occurred when evidence surfaced implicating several key figures involved directly colluding with Zorian operatives, seeking to undermine efforts made by brave souls fighting valiantly against tyranny threatening to engulf entire galaxy. With damning proof secured firmly in hand, Petro wasted no time assembling task force aimed confronting traitors head-on, delivering justice, swiftly ensuring those responsible faced consequences befitting actions taken against humanity itself. Meanwhile, aboard the Dauntless, Hawkins remained focused, resolutely preparing crew members for upcoming mission ahead, knowing full well stakes had never been higher nor challenges faced more daunting than those lying just beyond horizon, waiting patiently strike when least expected. The gathering storm. The atmosphere aboard the UEF Dauntless was thick with anticipation and anxiety as Captain James Hawkins prepared his crew for what lay ahead. The recent battle against the Zorian fleet had been a resounding success, showcasing the devastating power of Prometheus. Yet, even in victory, shadows loomed large. The Galactic Council was in disarray, and the Zorians were not likely to take their defeat lightly. As Hawkins gathered his senior officers in the ship's briefing room, he could sense the tension in the air. Each member of his crew had witnessed the horrors of war, but this time felt different. They were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for their very identity as a species. "Listen up," Hawkins began, his voice steady but firm. "We've received orders to prepare for a new mission deep into Zorian space. Our goal is to strike at their military infrastructure and command centers using Prometheus." Commander Elena Rodriguez crossed her arms, skepticism etched on her face. "Captain, while I understand the need for a show of force, we have to consider the risks. We're still reeling from our last encounter, and the Zorians will be ready for us this time." Hawkins nodded, acknowledging her concerns. "I know it's dangerous, but we can't afford to appear weak. If we give in now, we risk losing everything we fought for. We must show them that humanity will not be intimidated." Lieutenant Commander Michael Volov chimed in, his brow furrowed with worry. "And what about the internal threats? We still have traitors among us who may try to sabotage our efforts." "That's why I'm handpicking our team," Hawkins replied. "We'll only take those we can trust completely. This mission is too critical to leave anything to chance." Dr. Stern stood at the back of the room, his face pale and drawn. "Captain, I must reiterate my concerns about Prometheus. We still don't fully understand its capabilities or potential side effects. If something goes wrong—" Hawkins held up a hand to interrupt him gently but firmly. "I appreciate your input, Doctor, but we're out of options. The Zorians are relentless, and if we don't act now, we may never get another chance." The crew exchanged glances filled with uncertainty but also determination. They had all signed up for this fight, understanding that it might cost them their lives. But they also believed in their cause, the right to exist free from tyranny. As preparations began for their mission, Hawkins took a moment to reflect on what lay ahead. He knew they were stepping into the lion's den. Zorian space was heavily fortified and crawling with enemy vessels eager to avenge their recent defeat. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity aboard the Dauntless as Hawkins and his crew worked tirelessly to prepare for their strike mission. They ran simulations, fine-tuned weapon systems, and conducted drills designed to enhance their combat readiness. Hawkins spent long hours with Dr. Stern in the lab where Prometheus was housed, an ominous orb pulsating with an eerie blue light that seemed almost alive. "Are you sure you can control it?" Hawkins asked Stern one evening as they reviewed data on Prometheus' capabilities. Stern sighed heavily, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "We've done everything we can to ensure stability during deployment, but there are variables we can't account for in real combat scenarios." Hawkins felt a knot form in his stomach at those words but pushed it aside. He had no choice but to trust Stern's expertise. They needed Prometheus if they were going to stand any chance against the Zorian Empire. As launch day approached, Hawkins gathered his selected team, veterans who had proven themselves time and again under fire. "Listen up," he said as they stood together on the bridge of the Dauntless before departure. "This mission is going to be dangerous. There's no sugarcoating it. But I trust each and every one of you with my life and the lives of everyone back home." The crew nodded solemnly. They understood what was at stake. "Let's show them what humanity is capable of," Hawkins concluded before giving the order to set course for Zorian space. As the Dauntless slipped into hyperspace, Hawkins felt a mix of exhilaration and dread wash over him. They were crossing into hostile territory, where every second counted and every decision could mean life or death. Meanwhile, back at UEF Command Headquarters on Earth, Admiral Petro was deep in strategy discussions with General Marcus Graves about how best to respond to the escalating tensions with the Galactic Council. "The Zorian ambassador is pushing hard for us to surrender Prometheus," Petro said as he reviewed reports detailing diplomatic communications between various factions within the Council. Graves nodded gravely. "We knew this would happen after our last engagement. They won't rest until they have that weapon under their control." Petro leaned forward intently. "We need to prepare for potential sanctions against us from the Council if we refuse their demands." Graves frowned thoughtfully before responding. "And we need contingency plans if things go south during Hawkins' mission, if he fails." "Then we'll have no choice but to go on the offensive," Petro interjected firmly. "We can't allow ourselves to be cornered like this." Back aboard the Dauntless, Hawkins and his crew emerged from hyperspace into a star-studded void that felt both awe-inspiring and terrifying at once. "Captain," Rodriguez said as she scanned their surroundings from her tactical station, "we're entering Zorian space now. I'm detecting multiple ships on long-range sensors." "Prepare for battle stations," Hawkins ordered with steely resolve as adrenaline surged through him like fire igniting an inferno within. This was it. The moment they had prepared for was finally upon them. As they approached their target, a heavily fortified Zorian command center, Hawkins felt tension mount among his crew. Every heartbeat echoed like thunder reverberating through steel walls surrounding them. "Engage stealth mode," he commanded quietly yet firmly, while keeping an eye on sensor readings showing enemy vessels patrolling nearby. Hunters prowling through darkness searching prey unsuspecting enough wander too close. With bated breath, the crew held steady as the Dauntless glided silently toward its objective. A colossal structure looming ominously against backdrop stars twinkling brightly overhead like distant beacons, guiding lost souls homeward. Suddenly alarms blared throughout ship-breaking silence, shattering focus. "Captain, we've been detected," Volov shouted urgently from engineering station, while frantic energy surged through him like electricity coursing veins. "Shields up. Prepare for evasive maneuvers." Hawkins barked instinctively, shifting into action mode without hesitation, his heart pounding fiercely against ribcage echoing battle cries ringing loud within mind, urging him onward toward destiny awaiting just beyond horizon. The ship shook violently as enemy fire rained down upon them. Explosions rocked, the Dauntless sending shockwaves reverberating through hull, while crew members scrambled desperately trying to regain control amidst chaos unfolding around them. "Return fire," Rodriguez shouted fiercely as she targeted one of the approaching Zorian ships, her fingers dancing across controls like lightning striking ground, igniting flames ferociously consuming everything in sight. Hawkins gritted his teeth, focused intently on navigating through heavy fire, while simultaneously coordinating efforts between officers working tirelessly under pressure surrounding him. "Doctor, bring Prometheus online," he ordered urgently, knowing full well that unleashing its power could turn tide battle entirely, but also carry risks unforeseen lurking beneath surface waiting strike when least expected. Der Stern worked feverishly at his console, sweat beading on forehead reflecting intensity atmosphere surrounding them all. A palpable energy thrumming through air charged with anticipation mingled fear gripping hearts tightly within chests, threatening suffocate hope flickering dimly against overwhelming odds stacked high against them. Finally, the moment arrived. "Prometheus is ready," Stern shouted triumphantly just as another blast rocked ship sending vibrations coursing through steel walls reverberating loudly within ears, ringing like distant thunder echoing across vast emptiness surrounding them. "Now, unleash it," Hawkins commanded fiercely, feeling surge courage swell inside him, igniting flames, determination burning brightly, illuminating path forward leading straight toward destiny awaiting just beyond reach. With blinding flash of light, Prometheus unleashed its devastating power, a beam of pure energy lancing out striking nearest Zorian ship with catastrophic force, exploding into fiery debris scattering across void leaving nothing behind but Echo's remnants, once proud vessel, now reduced ashes drifting silently among stars twinkling brightly overhead. The tide of battle shifted dramatically as chaos erupted among Zorian ranks, ships scattering desperately trying to evade deadly beams raining down upon them like wrathful gods punishing those who dared challenge humanity's resolve. Hawkins felt exhilaration surge within him, watching crew work seamlessly together, targeting one enemy vessel after another, executing maneuvers flawlessly amidst chaos swirling around them like tempestuous storm threatening swallow whole everything in sight. But even amidst victory, doubts lingered hauntingly within mind, reminding him just how fragile peace truly was between factions vying power across galaxies seeking dominance over all without mercy or restraint whatsoever. As battle raged on, the stakes had never been higher nor challenges faced more daunting than those lying just beyond horizon, waiting patiently strike when least expected. Clash of Titans. The atmosphere aboard the UEF Dauntless was electric with anticipation as Captain James Hawkins prepared his crew for the most critical mission of their lives. They had just returned from a stunning victory against the Zorian fleet, but the threat was far from over. The Galactic Council had issued an ultimatum, and the Zorian Empire was poised to retaliate. With Prometheus in their possession, they had a chance to strike back decisively. "Listen up, everyone," Hawkins said, addressing his hand-picked team gathered on the bridge. "We're heading deep into Zorian territory to target their military infrastructure. This is our opportunity to show them that humanity will not be intimidated." Commander Elena Rodriguez stood at her tactical station, her expression serious. "Captain, we need to be cautious. The Zorians will be expecting us after our last engagement. They'll have fortified their defenses." "I know," Hawkins replied, his voice steady. "But we can't afford to hesitate. If we wait too long, we risk losing everything we fought for." Dr. Stern, still visibly shaken from their previous encounter with Prometheus, interjected. "We need to ensure that the weapon is stable during deployment. If anything goes wrong—" Hawkins cut him off gently but firmly. "We'll take every precaution, Doctor, but we also need to be ready to act quickly. Time is not on our side." With that, Hawkins gave the order to set course for the Zorian Command Center, located on a distant planet known as Chiron 7, a heavily fortified world brimming with enemy ships and defenses. As the Dauntless slipped into hyperspace, Hawkins felt a mix of excitement and dread wash over him. They were about to enter enemy territory where every decision could mean life or death, not just for them, but for humanity itself. Hours later, they emerged from hyperspace into a star-studded void filled with the ominous silhouettes of Zorian ships, patrolling the area like wolves guarding their den. "Captain, we're detecting multiple Zorian vessels ahead," Lieutenant Commander Michael Volov reported from Engineering. "Prepare for battle stations," Hawkins commanded, adrenaline surging through him as he took his seat at the helm. The crew sprang into action, each member performing their duties with precision honed through countless drills and battles. The tension in the air was palpable as they maneuvered closer to Chiron 7, where the Zorian Command Center loomed large, a sprawling fortress surrounded by an armada of warships. "Target their defenses," Rodriguez said as she initiated scans of the enemy fleet. "We need to neutralize their artillery before we can make our move." "Prometheus is online and ready," Dr. Stern confirmed, his fingers dancing over controls as he monitored the weapon's status. "On my mark," Hawkins instructed, his heart pounding in rhythm with the ship's engines. 3, 2, 1. Now. With a blinding flash of light, Prometheus unleashed its devastating power. A beam of pure energy lanced out from the Dauntless, striking a nearby Zorian destroyer with catastrophic force. The ship erupted in a fiery explosion that sent debris scattering across the void. The Zorian fleet was caught off guard. Confusion rippled through their ranks as they scrambled to respond to this unexpected assault. "Target another ship," Hawkins shouted as he felt the exhilaration of battle coursing through him like wildfire. Rodriguez's fingers flew over her console as she locked onto another enemy vessel. Firing. Another beam shot forth from Prometheus, striking true and obliterating another Zorian ship in a brilliant flash of light. "Keep it up," Hawkins urged his crew, feeling a surge of hope as they began to turn the tide against overwhelming odds. But the Zorians quickly regrouped, launching counterattacks with ferocity. Their ships began firing back in retaliation, and soon the Dauntless was engulfed in a hailstorm of laser fire. "Shields holding at 70%. Volov called out as he worked furiously at his station. "We need to maneuver," Hawkins shouted over the din of alarms blaring throughout the ship. Evasive action. The Dauntless twisted and turned through space like a dancer evading blows from an unseen opponent. Hawkins felt every jolt and shudder reverberate through him. He had fought many battles before, but never against such overwhelming numbers. "Captain, we're taking heavy damage," Rodriguez warned as another blast rocked their ship. Engineering. Can you boost power to shields? Hawkins barked into his communicator. We're doing everything we can. Volov replied urgently, but we're losing power fast. Just then, an explosion rocked the Dauntless again, this time sending crew members tumbling across the bridge as sparks flew from consoles. Hawkins gritted his teeth against the chaos surrounding him. They couldn't afford to falter now, not when so much was at stake. Dr. Stern, is there any way we can increase Prometheus output? He asked desperately. Stern hesitated before answering. I can try adjusting its parameters for maximum output, but it may destabilize if pushed too far. Hawkins weighed his options. Failure wasn't an option here, not when humanity's future hung in the balance. Do it, he commanded resolutely. We need every ounce of power we can get. As Dr. Stern worked feverishly at his console, fingers flying over controls, Hawkins felt tension mount among his crew. Fear mingled with determination, creating an atmosphere charged with energy ready to explode. Finally, the moment arrived. Prometheus is ready, Stern shouted triumphantly just as another blast rocked the Dauntless, sending vibrations coursing through steel walls, reverberating loudly within ears, ringing like distant thunder echoing across vast emptiness surrounding them. Now, unleash it, Hawkins commanded fiercely, feeling surge courage swell inside him, igniting flames, determination burning brightly, illuminating path forward leading straight toward destiny awaiting just beyond reach.